Hey, everybody, welcome back. We're going deep today on giving.
Giving.
Yeah, giving.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, like the nuts and bolts of it, but like the whole heart attitude thing.
Right. Like, what's the motivation?
Yeah,
Exactly. We're doing it.
And we've got a couple sources here. One is a podcast outline, actually, called The Joy of Giving.
Interesting.
And another excerpt, both kind of looking at generosity, from this spiritual point of view.
Okay.
And it's kind of funny because you get that nice, warm, fuzzy feeling when you give like a really good gift, right? Like you nail it.
Yeah.
You know they're going to love it.
Absolutely.
Well, we're exploring the idea that giving can actually bring that same joy, but like on a deeper level. Yeah.
I like that.
So
both these sources kind of start from this idea that like everything we have is from God.
okay.
Like really a gift.
Right.
Like every talent you have, every opportunity you get, even just, breathing, like
Yeah.
it's all grace.
That's a powerful thought.
Yeah.
So like, okay, I'm with you on that.
Uh-huh.
But how does that actually change how we see our stuff?
Yeah.
Like, does it make us more willing to share if we really believe that?
Right. That's the question.
Yeah.
And they use some really interesting passages from the Bible to kind of unpack that, like 2 Corinthians 9:69, for instance.
Okay.
It talks about sowing and reaping.
Uh-huh.
Basically, when you give open-handedly, you're not actually losing out.
Oh,
You're actually opening yourself up to even more good stuff.
so like good karma.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay.
But it goes beyond just like money and possessions.
Right.
It's about blessings in every part of your life.
Yeah.
You help someone out and then suddenly you get this lucky break somewhere else.
Yeah.
It's like you're putting good energy out there and it comes back to you
I like that.
in unexpected ways.
Yeah. And that reminds me of what that Joy of Giving outline was saying, about giving cheerfully.
Right.
It's not about like handing over a couple bucks, because you feel like you have to.
It's got to be from the heart, right?
Yes.
Like you're part of something bigger.
Yeah. And there's something to that, like psychologically too, right?
Absolutely.
Like I've heard that people who give regularly, they're actually happier.
Yeah, there's research on this.
Right.
They tend to be more content with their lives.
It's like generosity is contagious or something.
Yeah, it spreads joy, not just to the person receiving,
Okay.
but to the person giving as well.
Now, there was another passage that really stood out to me. Malachi 3.10:12.
Oh, yeah.
It talks about opening the floodgates of heaven when we give.
Powerful image, right?
What do you think about that?
Like, whoa.
What does that mean to you?
Like, imagine these giant floodgates, swinging open and all these blessings just pouring out.
Right.
To me, it means God's abundance is like never ending.
Okay.
And when we give freely, we're tapping into that.
So it's not like God has a limited supply of blessings and is choosing who to give them to.
Oh, no.
It's more about us being open to receive.
Exactly.
Okay.
Aligning ourselves with that flow,
I see.
Trusting that there's enough to go around for everyone.
That's a beautiful way to look at it.
Yeah.
Now let's switch gears a little bit here and talk about 1 Samuel 15.22.
Right.
This one really jumped out at me because it says obedience is more important than just going through the motions of sacrifice.
Interesting.
So how do you think that applies to giving?
That's a great question because it makes you really look at your motivations,
Right.
Are you giving because you genuinely want to and you love to and it's the right thing to do?
Right.
Or are you just checking a box?
Okay.
Is it truly coming from a place of obedience to God?
Yeah, like if you're tithing, which I guess for those who don't know is giving 1/10 of your income to your church or charity.
Right.
But you're doing it begrudgingly, just because you feel like you should.
Yeah.
Is that really generosity?
I don't know. The action might be there.
Right.
But is your heart really in it? True generosity comes from understanding God's grace
Okay.
and wanting to share that grace with others.
Yeah.
It's like your actions and your beliefs got to be aligned.
Right.
And that overflows into your giving.
I see.
Yeah. It all ties
So
together.
it's about the heart behind it, right? Not just like throwing money at something.
Yeah, exactly. And that actually leads to like this other cool idea from these sources that recognizing God's grace can totally change your perspective.
Okay.
Like instead of being all like, I gotta hold on tight to everything I have.
Yeah.
You start to see it more as something to share.
Okay, so it's like turning that fear of scarcity on its head.
Right. What if letting go is actually the key to having more?
More what? Like,
Not just money, but like relationships, experiences, everything.
yeah.
Even the Joy of Giving outline mentions how generosity can like reduce stress
Oh, wow.
and make you feel better overall.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So how do we actually do this then?
Yeah.
Besides tithing, What are some ways we can like practice generosity?
Well, they make a big point that it's not always about money. Like,
Oh,
think about what you're good at, your talents.
yeah.
Maybe you're awesome at fixing things, or you bake amazing cookies,
Yeah.
or you're just a really good listener.
Yeah.
Those are gifts too,
Yeah.
and you can share
It's
those.
like that story we saw about that kid who made a website for his local food bank.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't have a lot of money, but he used his tech skills to help out.
Exactly. Perfect example.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be some huge thing either.
Right.
Like maybe you offer to babysit for a friend who's super stressed, or help your elderly neighbor carry their groceries.
Right, yeah.
Those little acts of kindness, they make a big difference.
Yeah, it's about being aware of what people need around you
Right.
and finding ways to help.
Right. With whatever you've got.
And it's cool how those little things can kind of snowball.
Oh, totally.
You have one person and they're inspired to help someone else.
It's like this chain reaction of good stuff.
Now, let's talk about the big one, though. Money worries.
Uh,
Like a lot of people want to be generous, but they're scared of not having enough.
it's a real struggle.
So how do we give freely when we're also facing financial challenges?
Well, these sources actually have a good perspective on that.
Okay.
They say trusting God to provide doesn't mean ignoring your finances or being reckless.
Right.
It's more about shifting your mindset from scarcity to abundance.
From fear to faith.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's easier said than done, right?
Oh, for sure. It takes practice.
Yeah.
But the more you practice generosity, the more you experience that provision.
Okay.
It's like building a muscle, you know? The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
I like that.
And they talk about prayer, too, as a key part of this,
Yeah.
like specifically praying for a spirit of generosity.
Like asking God to help us be more giving.
Yeah, it's like inviting God to work on your heart, you know?
Yeah.
Soften those parts that are holding back and help
Plenty.
you see the world through his eyes.
With more compassion.
Yes, and abundance.
So it's not about forcing ourselves to give. It's about letting something bigger work through us.
Exactly, and that can be really powerful.
Oh, so?
It can change your focus from your own needs to the needs of others.
Yeah.
It can open your eyes to opportunities to give that you might have missed before.
Okay.
And it can fill you with this sense of purpose and joy that goes way beyond material stuff.
So it's like we're connecting to this source of generosity that never runs dry.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, the sources we've been looking at, they focused a lot on the spiritual side of giving.
Right.
But what about the bigger impact, on people and communities when we embrace this kind of thinking?
Well, imagine a world where everyone's focused on giving more than getting,
Yeah.
where we understand we're all connected and we act like it.
Right.
That could change everything from our personal relationships to how society works, even the global economy.
That's a pretty amazing vision.
It is.
And I think it's possible.
I do too.
When we choose to give freely, we're making a difference for other people. But we're also creating this culture of generosity.
And that can spread.
Yeah, like ripples.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
like planting seeds of compassion and kindness and abundance.
And those seeds can grow into something really special.
For sure.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into the grace of giving,
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious, what are your final thoughts? What's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from this?
It's been great talking about all this with you. If I had to pick one thing for our listeners to remember, it's that generosity isn't just about like the act of giving stuff,
Right.
It's about a way of being, a heart attitude, like we were saying.
Yeah.
It's about realizing we're all connected.
Like we've been talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And it doesn't have to be like this big, huge thing, right?
No, not at all.
It's the everyday stuff. The little acts of kindness that can make a difference.
Right.
Like what if everyone decided to do just one extra nice thing for somebody every day?
That's a great idea.
Hold the door, pay for the coffee for the person behind you. Give someone a real compliment.
I love it.
Those little things can really make someone's day.
Absolutely. And you never know where that positive energy goes from there.
And I think these sources really nailed it when they talked about the connection between giving and joy.
Yeah.
It's not about giving because you feel guilty or obligated,
You should feel good, right?
It's about tapping into that love and abundance that's already inside us.
Mm.
And when we give freely, we get to experience that joy ourselves and spread it around.
It's a win-win.
Totally. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the grace of giving, I want to leave our listeners with a challenge.
Okay, I like it.
What's one small act of generosity you can do today?
Hmm.
Maybe reach out to a friend who's having a hard time, offer to help a neighbor with something, or just smile at a stranger,
That's so powerful.
Something from the heart.
I love that challenge. And remember, generosity isn't a one-time thing.
Right.
It's a way of life.
Right.
So keep exploring these ideas and keep practicing generosity in your own way and just see what happens.
Yeah, see what amazing things unfold in your life and the lives of people around you.
That's what it's all about.
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. And until next time, keep those hearts open and those giving spirits flowing.
See ya, fellow.